Why is it wrong to kill people? This is a question that's been asked many times throughout human history, and most answers, however true or right they may be, still do not seem to be satisfying enough for most people. Throughout my life, I've heard many different reasons why killing is wrong, and even though I agree with almost all of them, I've never experienced an answer that fully encapsulates why it's necessary for a functioning society to see killing as a wrong thing to do. That is, until now. In the manga series Do Not Say Mystery, Chapter 2 goes over this heavy question, and I personally believe that the series gives the best answer I have ever heard to that question. Why is it wrong to kill people? In this video, I'll be going over the scene that talks about the question and break down why the answer given is a perfect representation of why killing people is wrong. By using the scene in this manga, I will start with a brief background on the scene. Then I'll go over three common answers which make sense but unfortunately has some gaps in their logic. Then I'll break down what I believe to be a perfect answer. And finally, I will give some insight to why bad people ask questions like this in the first place. If you end up enjoying this video, please like, comment, and subscribe to support the channel. Also, subscribe to my Patreon for early access to more videos like this one. The link is in the description down below. Now, why is it wrong to kill people? Let's talk about it. Before I talk about the scene where the question is answered, I'll provide a brief background on the scene. In this scene, there was a man who hijacked a bus full of people, and for some reason he held them hostage. The people tried hard to escape and thought of many different ways to get out of the situation since they outnumber him. But at the end of the day, they decided to follow his demands and wait for a better opening so they can lower the risk of anyone getting hurt as much as possible. Eventually, the man turns towards the hostage and asks the question, "Why do you think it's wrong to kill people?" He continued to taunt them by saying, "Come on, won't someone please teach me? Why is it wrong to kill people?" One of the hostages snaps back and says it's perfectly obvious. But the hijacker says he wants to hear what the perfectly obvious reason is. At this point, three different hostages end up giving three different answers, which we all have probably heard before. The first hostage steps up to answer his question and says, "Because you wouldn't want to be killed yourself, right? Didn't you ever learn that you shouldn't do things you wouldn't want others to do to you?" This is a perfectly fine response and applies to normal people everywhere. If everyone is seen as equal, then killing someone when you don't want to be killed yourself is hypocritical and incorrectly assumes that your life is somehow above someone else's. This is one of the many answers I've heard in my life, but like most of the answers, it feels incomplete, since the one fatal flaw is the hypothetical existence of the person that does not mind being killed. Using that logic, it is perfectly fine and okay for someone who doesn't mind being killed to go around and kill everybody, which is surely not what people who answer like this intend to say. As expected, the hijacker answers, in that case, people that don't mind being killed will be free to kill others. He then moves on to the second hostage, who answers the question with, "It will sadden those left behind." This is yet another perfectly fine answer, which makes sense to a normal person. Doing an action that not only directly affects the person involved by taking their life, but also negatively affects the many people close to them by giving them sorrow and grief, can easily be seen as a terrible thing. Again, this is one of the many answers I've heard in my life, but it still feels incomplete since there's an implication that killing someone with no family or loved ones wouldn't be wrong, which of course is not what people who answer like this intend to say at all. The hijacker answers the second hostage by saying if they don't have any family to sadden, is it okay to kill them? After both these answers fail to satisfy the hijacker, he moves on to the third hostage, who answers with, "Because you'll get caught. No one does it because it is a crime." This is another good answer because normal people are raised knowing the gravity of crimes and how much their lives can be affected by becoming heinous criminals. This is a good deterrent for many potential murderers, and murder being a crime in a society where crime is usually seen as wrong, it's natural for this to be a reason why murder is also seen as wrong. This is an answer I also hear a lot, but just like the first two, it still feels incomplete because there's an implication that if you do not get caught and punished for murder, it then becomes okay. This, of course, is not the message that people who answer like this are trying to convey, and the hijacker proceeds to say, "So you would do it if you wouldn't get caught?" I'm asking why it's a crime in the first place. He then continues to say, "How come? Someone tell me, why is it wrong to kill people?" As he was talking, he gets interrupted by the main character, Kuno Totonu. Kuno proceeds to give one of the most satisfying and fulfilling answers to this question I've ever heard. His monologue starts with this: there's nothing saying it's wrong to kill people. He repeats himself and says, there's nothing saying it's wrong. It's not decided by the law either. The other hostages get confused, and Kuna continues and says, there's no law saying it's wrong to kill people. A hostage tells him that they'll arrest you, and Kuna agrees that, yeah, there are consequences, but for the specific question, why is it wrong to kill people, there's nothing saying it's wrong. All it is a convention we all follow in order to create a peaceful and orderly society. What I liked about this line is that it removes the morality aspect of the question and talks solely about the benefit of the rule. The question on a fundamental level is a trap because the morality behind murder has many different perspectives that are easy to justify depending on the situation. Kuno recognized that by saying there's nothing that says murder is actually wrong, and instead society follows the rule due to its convenience in creating a peaceful and orderly society. The conversation continues, and Kuno says that it is true that right now, killing would be considered wrong, but if we were in war, suddenly it would be a-okay. And if you killed a ton of people, you even be commended. See, we can twist it however we want. It isn't that straightforward. He continues and says, in fact, even now there are places on earth where killing is still rampant. There are people that think killing in their own country is wrong, but carpet bombing another country is fine. I have to wonder, how do those people explain it to their children? I would love to hear it. Here, Kuno expands on the fact that there are many different perspectives when it comes to viewing the morality of murder. He gives examples and places where murder is seen as justifiable and ones where it's seen as a terrible and punishable thing. He also brings up how contradicting some of the logic is, but at the end of the day, it just shows how complicated and complex this conversation is. Kuno continues and says, I think that you should go find one of those places. There are places that will accept foreigners, and even if they don't, you don't care about the law, so I'm sure you can find some way in. The hijacker starts stuttering, and Kuno continues, however, in a place like that, you quickly be killed as well. Why is it wrong to you get about that far, and then I think you'll be killed? The fact that you haven't been killed already is down to the fact that everyone here is honoring the convention. Normally, people don't think about killing others. They don't normally want to either. They don't even think, well, he's a hijacker, so it's okay to kill him. Why is it wrong to kill people? These people don't go out of their way to question it. And it's because they're that sort of people that you haven't been killed already. This right here is the essence of his message. The answer I've been looking for this entire time. Kuno starts off this final piece of his message by explaining the main differences between a society that values the convention of killing people being wrong and a society that does not uphold that convention. What makes this comparison powerful is that the hijacker is complaining about current society, telling him that killing is wrong. But in a society where that isn't the case, the hijacker will be in a far more dangerous and atrocious situation where he most likely wouldn't even live long enough to complain at all. In war-torn communities where killing other civilians in neighborhoods is normal, the hijacker can easily kill all he wants over there without facing any legal consequences. The problem, Kuno mentions, is that the hijacker will easily be killed as well. Like, very easily. Kuno says that if he asked that same question in a society where murder is the norm, he wouldn't even finish the sentence before he's killed. And if that sounds a bit too extreme, Kuno brought up their current situation and reminded the hijacker that he is currently doing a huge crime that inconveniences many people at once. It is like 10 people against the hijacker, and one can even argue that through self-defense, they might be justified in killing the hijacker. So why hasn't that big group of people killed the big bad hijacker yet? The answer is simple. They honor the same convention that the hijacker is complaining about. He is currently alive and criticizing these people for following and upholding the same rule that is also keeping him alive. It is a very ironic situation that makes the person asking the question seems very idiotic. I really love this answer because it doesn't focus on why murder is wrong, but it just shows how messed up society can become if that rule isn't set in place. For both the hijacker and the hostages, that rule is what keeps everybody safe regardless of how extreme the situation can become. I also loved how Kuno brought up other societies that lack this convention, because if someone truly wanted to not be punished for killing, they can easily go to one of those highly dangerous kill zone societies and have fun there. So why don't they? Why are people who continuously benefit from the convention that murder is wrong, criticize and complain about that same convention while still staying in that society? Kuno gives insight on why certain killers love asking that question despite knowing deep down they don't truly hate the convention itself. Kuno starts off with a metaphor. You are the guy at a swim meet that keeps talking about wanting to pole vault. Swim meet refers to people in normal society who don't accept murder being okay, and pole vault being people who do accept murder as normal. Kuno continues the metaphor and says, wouldn't it be better for you to go find a pole vault competition to compete in? However, that competition you want to enter doesn't have its grounds kept at all. It doesn't have any runways. No one pays attention to their order in line, and some of them will even try to snap your pole. It's that kind of competition. That's the kind of competition you're looking to enter. Kuno is trying to reiterate the point that murder is being way too glorified in the eyes of those who ask this question, and they don't quite realize how terrible societies are when they don't have any law and order that upholds the convention of murder being wrong. He says the hijacker is someone who thinks that his dream society of murder being okay still have things like rules and regulations, when in fact it's the exact opposite. Those societies don't care where you are, or what you're doing, or if you're ready to fight, or if you're with family. It doesn't matter. People in those war-torn communities live every day in constant fear of their lives, where everyone has to murder to survive, yet people like the hijacker, who comes from such a peaceful society, dares to complain about why killing is held as a wrong thing. Kuno continues to give more insight and says, why don't you go somewhere like that? In a war zone, someone like you could be an asset. However, if you don't want to go somewhere like that, and you don't want to be killed, if you simply wish that you, and only you, can kill people, that's a different story altogether. That's just you wanting to feel superior to others, perhaps. Or you wanting to subjugate others, perhaps. Or you getting off on tormenting others, perhaps. It's essentially the flip side of harboring an inferiority complex. It's the other side of your complex. That's all it is. Why is it wrong to kill people? It doesn't even warrant that level of discussion to begin with. I absolutely loved how Kuna ended their discussion. He exposed the flawed reasoning people use when trying to criticize why normal society treats murder as a crime. These people don't actually want to live in a place with constant killing. They instead want a place where they, and only them, can kill, and everyone else can't. The feeling of superiority is what they truly seek, not a society of constant death and warfare, because if they truly wanted that, they would just leave and go to a war-torn community instead of staying where it's peaceful and complaining about it. With the way Kuno broke down why the question is idiotic on a fundamental level, it was great how he ended this argument by saying the question doesn't even warrant that level of discussion. There is no reason to entertain the idea of changing a functional society into one that allows murder, because even the person asking that question doesn't truly want that themselves. It's just a delusion they make up to hide their complex. Overall, I found the answer from this series to be truly satisfying because it covered everything I wanted it to without leaving any holes that implies that the convention of murder being wrong is not worth following. The answer explains that at a fundamental level, the fact that we can all just exist in society and do things without fear of being killed for no reason is one of the beauties that come with following the murder is wrong convention. No matter how you try to justify a specific case of murder being okay, the convention still has to be upheld for everybody to live in a peaceful and orderly society. No one, even the people that complain about it, wants to go to societies where this convention is not upheld, so that tells you more than enough about how they truly feel deep down. With all this being said, I really enjoyed the dialogue in this series, and if the conversations in these scenes caught your attention, don't be afraid to check out the manga Do Not Say Mystery. It's really good, and I definitely recommend it, and it's worth the read. If you ended up enjoying the video, please like, comment, and subscribe to support the channel. Also subscribe to my Patreon for early access to videos like this one. The link is in the description down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.